A real quick heads up, the hosts in this podcast are entirely AI. They've been supplied with details and information from us here at Marquee Selections. Enjoy the episode.
All right, so you've got a bottle of that Uggiano Falconeri Cabernet Sauvignon. Well, buckle up, because we're about to take a deep dive into the story behind this wine. And let me tell you, it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I think what makes this wine so interesting is the way it connects like a centuries-old tradition with a modern rebellious streak.
So I bet you're looking at that falcon on the Uggiano label and thinking, what's the deal with that bird?
Right.
Well, that, my friend, is the key to the whole falconry thing. It goes all the way back to the ancient practice of falconry, which has deep roots, especially in the Tuscan hills where this wine comes from.
Yeah, it's not just the name. I mean, falconry was a huge part of life in Tuscany, especially in the Florentine hills where Uggiano has its roots.
I see.
You know, I can just picture those skilled falconers with their trained birds of prey just soaring over those vineyards. Like, it's a real testament to the connection between humans and nature that has stood the test of time for centuries.
So basically, when you're sipping on that falconeri, you're not just tasting Cabernet Sauvignon. You're tasting like a legacy, right?
Yeah.
You're tasting the connection to those Tuscan hills and the spirit of those falconers.
Exactly. And it's amazing how falconry went from being just a way to hunt to a cultural symbol. I mean, it even made it onto UNESCO's intangible cultural heritage list.
Wow.
It's a global recognition of how important it is to connect with nature and keep traditions alive.
Okay, so speaking of traditions, let's switch gears for a second and talk about the term Supertuscan.
Right.
You've probably seen it on the bottle, right?
Yeah.
That means this wine is a bit of a rebel. A rule breaker, you could say.
Yeah. Supertuscans like this falconeri, they're known for their amazing quality. And, you know, they're kind of audacious because they stray from those traditional Italian winemaking rules. So think about it. Back in the 1970s, Italian wine was really strictly regulated. There was this thing called the DOC, which means Denominazione di Origine Controllata. And it basically told winemakers exactly which grapes they could use in which regions.
Wait, so there were like actual rules on what grapes you could use?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But some innovative winemakers weren't satisfied with just following the rules. They wanted to create something truly special, something that pushed boundaries. So they started blending traditional Italian grapes with international varieties like your Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Syrah.
Yeah.
And it created these bold, flavorful wines that didn't really fit into any of the existing categories.
So they were kind of like those rebellious falconers we talked about, really.
Exactly. Soaring above the restrictions and creating something new and exciting.
Nice.
But of course, when you break the rules, it ruffles some feathers, right?
Yeah.
So these Supertuscans, they faced resistance at first. They were almost considered like outlaws in the wine world.
Outlaws? No way.
Yeah, it was a real revolution. But then the quality of the wine started speaking for itself.
Yeah.
And their popularity just skyrocketed. The Italian wine world couldn't ignore them anymore. So eventually they came up with a new designation called the IGT, which stands for Indicazione Geografica Tipica. It gave the winemakers more flexibility, and it recognized the innovation behind these Supertuscans.
Cool. So basically, that bottle of Uggiano Falconeri you've got, it's more than just a nice Cabernet Sauvignon. It's kind of like a symbol of innovation, wouldn't you say?
Right.
Like a reminder that sometimes breaking the rules can lead to something truly extraordinary.